Scotland is not a partner of the United Kingdom. Scotland is part of the United Kingdom.
In the British Union, 3 out of the 4 nations, Wales, Northern Ireland, and Scotland, get a block grant each year. The amount of money is decided by England. All the taxes, duty and revenues raised in the 3 other regions are taken in their entirety to London. The 3 are only allowed to spend a specific sum of money and only on priorities and projects the English have deemed as within the competence of the devolved parliaments and assemblies. The English majority at Westminster means England can defeat any motion raised by Wales, Northern Ireland, and Scotland. Therefore, whatever England votes for, Scotland gets. The devolved administrations are not allowed to borrow money, except Scotland, which has strict limits on the amount and what the money can be borrowed for. England has no block grant, no restrictions, and spends and borrows as much as it wants, and spends it on whatever it wants. England uses the assets of the other nations as collateral against any borrowings without consultation with, or agreement from, the other 3. England pays nothing for the 54% of electricity sent down south every year. Then there is the water it demands, for free, to help with the droughts in the southeast. England takes from Scotland around £240 billion to the Westminster coffers, then gives some of it back. England also gains about 10% GDP from forcing Scottish exports out of an English port, so Westminster can claim the reward. Simplifying it, England is the imperial power and the other 3 nations are colonies of England. It is difficult to explain the dynamic any other way, so to deny it is to be a fool, a liar, or a collaborator. Her Majesty's government at Westminster sold off the post office to themselves, their family and their friends. Her Majesty's government at Westminster are selling off the NHS to themselves, their family and their friends. Her Majesty's government at Westminster are liars. They lied about Iraq. They lied about their expenses. They lied about phone hacking. They lied about the oil in the North Sea. They lied about Jimmy Savile. They lied about cash for questions. They lied about the Westminster pedophile ring. They lied about the Belgrano. They lied about leaks at Faslane. They lied about selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. They lied about tackling tax evasion. They lied about Brexit. They lied about the NHS. They lied about pensions. They lied about EU membership. They lied about the vow. They lied about the Grenfell fire. They lied about the coronavirus. Her Majesty's government at Westminster are lying to the people of Scotland about the country's ability to flourish as an independent nation. They lied in 1979. They lied in 1999. And they lied in 2014 when they said Scotland was too poor, too small, too stupid. The truth is far from that. Scotland has only 8.3% of the UK's population. 8.3%. Remember this important figure, 8.3%. But we do have 32% of the land area, 61% of the sea area, 90% of the fresh water, 65% of the natural gas production, 97% of the crude oil production, 47% of the open cast coal production, 81% of the untapped coal reserves, 62% of the timber production, 46% of the total forest area, 92% of the hydroelectric production, 40% of the wind wave and solar energy production, 60% of the fish landings, 30% of the beef herd, 20% of the sheep herd, 9% of the dairy herd, 10% of the pig herd, 15% of the cereal holdings, 20% of the potato holdings, 100% of the Scotch whisky industry, 70% of gin manufacturing. We also have a £17 billion construction industry, £13 billion food and drink industry, £10 billion business services industry, £9.3 billion chemical services industry, £9.3 billion tourism industry, £7 billion financial services industry, £5 billion aero service industry, £4.5 billion whiskey export industry, £3.1 billion life sciences industry. Scotland still has £350 million worth of textile exports. We have 25% of Europe's wave and wind energy potential. And we have £1.5 trillion worth of oil and gas reserves. All of this, yet only 8.3% of the UK's population. If there is no construct, we will manufacture one. If there is no mechanism, we will engineer one. If there is no drug, we will culture one. If there is no remedy, we will concoct one. If there is no way, we will make one. Scotland. The only country in the world incapable of controlling our own finances, according to London. The country that gave the world Adam Smith, the father of economics, yet can't run its own economy. The country that gave the world sociology, ecology, field intelligence, aircraft design, universal standard time, first textbook on surgery, logarithms, hypnotism, electromagnetism, the discovery of the composition of Saturn's rings, popularized the decimal point, discovered the properties of carbon dioxide, the first cloned mammal, but we are incapable of running our own country. The country that gave the world the television, the telephone, the fridge, the toaster, the flushing toilet, the vacuum flask, penicillin, insulin, the bicycle, wave-powered electricity generator, world's first passenger steamboat, the postage stamp, the underlying principles of radio, radar, the kaleidoscope, the first automated can-filling machine, the modern lawnmower, the electric clock. Yet we are not able to be self-sufficient. The country that gave the world the hypodermic syringe, the saline drip, discovered the vaccine for typhoid fever, general anesthetic, pioneered X-ray cinematography, radiation therapy, oxygen therapy, effective treatment for TB, the beta blocker, the first artificial kidney, propofol, Glasgow Anxiety Scale, Glasgow Depression Scale, the ECG, but we are not intelligent enough to be in charge of our own country's destiny. The home of Sherlock Holmes, Peter Pan, Long John Silver and James Bond, but we are not creative enough to manage our own affairs. The country that gave the world cycling, curling, golf and ice hockey, but we are not fit to govern ourselves. The country that gave the world color photography, the Bank of France, the Bank of England, the Buick Motor Company, the New York Herald and Forbes magazine, but we are not genetically programmed to make political decisions. We invented the act of declaring independence for goodness sake. If ever there was a country that was born to be independent, it was Scotland. Scotland, the only country in the world that the English Empire will beg, steal, and borrow to keep at all costs. It's time to realize our worth. Big enough, smart enough, rich enough, had enough. On the subject of England, the question is really, what is England going to do when Scotland becomes independent? Scotland will rightfully take back into Scottish waters the oilfields stolen and given to England by Donald Dewar and Tony Blair in 1999. London is no longer the financial capital of the world, having relinquished the crown to New York. England's credit rating has been slashed and sterling is rocky. When Scotland leaves, sterling will become precarious as a currency. The UK, England, will lose its seat on the General Council at the UN. In the British Union, Scotland is allowed to design her own road signs. In the British Union, Scotland receives no extra revenue from VAT. Scotland is forbidden from setting a national wage, is forbidden from setting inheritance tax, is forbidden from taxing oil and gas revenue, is forbidden from changing taxes on fuel, is forbidden from incentivization for clinical research, is forbidden from changing duty on tobacco, is forbidden from changing duty on alcohol, is forbidden from exploring a foreign policy, is forbidden from changing the job center network, is forbidden from setting statutory maternity pay, is forbidden from holding constitutional referendums, is forbidden from setting a state pension, is forbidden from setting child benefit rates, is forbidden from changing universal credit, is forbidden from removing weapons of mass destruction, is forbidden from changing the income tax allowance, is forbidden from renationalizing public transport, is forbidden from abolishing labor's bedroom tax, is forbidden from setting a bereavement allowance, is forbidden from extricating housing benefit from universal credit, is forbidden from changing more than 15% of its welfare powers. And did you know there is a Northern Ireland-style unionist veto on electoral reform? In the British Union, it's all about England.